If you'd like to make your NFL games a little more interesting, you've come to the right place. It's the Even Money Podcast with Ross Tucker and Steve Fezzik.
Yeah, Vegas, baby, Vegas. It is the Even Money Podcast, presented, of course, by DraftKings Sportsbook, often imitated, never duplicated. The former pro and the actual pro with you for 30 minutes or less every single week. We record it typically 10:30 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays. Post it everywhere you can listen to podcasts. If you follow at Ross Tucker Pod, you'll know as soon as it's been uploaded and ready for you guys. You can also watch the show, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. I am the former professional, Ross Tucker, offensive lineman at Ross Tucker NFL. He is the current pro, Steve Fezzik at Fezzik Sports. However, Steve is under the weather. Steve has the flu and said he wasn't going to be able to give it a go. So he was doubtful for today's broadcast. He's been ruled inactive. So the good news is we had a really good week last week. And Steve emailed me his picks. So you'll still get Steve's picks. And I was able to get one of his proteges, who happens to be a good friend of mine from Reading, Pennsylvania, the great Paul Roberts, who's been on the show before at Paul Roberts Cuse, to fill in with your own picks and maybe some of the insight you have learned from the master over the years, Paul.
Yeah, talk about big shoes to fill right here. Almost impossible, but it's funny because we always hear in this gambling space about lines moving, right? I can tell you, because I see it every single week, Steve Fezzik is one of the guys that moves the lines, okay? That's who you're getting on this podcast. What he says matters. And I know there have been many times where if Steve gives out a play and I don't react within 30 seconds or a minute, I'm not getting that line. All right, that's fact. So always remember difference between pro bettors, content providers, and Steve is putting his money behind his picks. And obviously Ross knows the league and the depth charts and the players, the X's and O's as good as anybody.
Paul, you were on like in August, I think, or maybe July, and you had Penn State over 8.5 wins. They got 10. That was easy cash. You had Penn State. They were a pick 'em against Auburn. They slaughtered Auburn in that game. And then you had the Bills at minus 230 to win the division. They can pretty much lock that bad boy up if they beat the Dolphins on Saturday night. We had a really good week, Paul. And interestingly enough, it was not good on the teaser legs, which are typically good for us. How about this? For the week, I was up 6 units, and all 5 of my ATS bets cashed. Steve was up 3 units, and all 3 of his ATS bets cashed, including we went 2 for 2 on our best bets with the Jags and the Ravens. Unfortunately, the teasers did not come through. We both had the Cardinals in a teaser, and the Kyler injury kind of killed that. But it didn't really matter for me because the Vikings had already not been able to cover after Dan Campbell, my former teammate, stabbed me in the back with that 3rd and 7 pass to Penei Sewell for the Lions to get a field goal to go up 2 scores. Dan, what are you thinking? It's not about going up 2 scores to win the game. It's about me letting the Vikings teaser cover. Come on, man. So let's go through it quickly. Raiders, Rams. I leaned Raiders. They lost that game, like brutal. Eagles, Giants. I had nothing on it. Steve had the Eagles at -1 paired with the Cardinals plus 7.5 in a teaser. Obviously, the Eagles leg came through. The Cardinals did not. That was atrocious last night. Jets, Bills. Robert Saleh, my hero, for kicking the field goal down 11 to make it a 1-score game and to cover the 9. So I got 2 units on the Jets. Love the Jets. Love Salah. Vikings, Lions. We already mentioned we both teased the Vikings up to 8.5, and they choked. Then we got Browns, Bengals. I leaned Bengals, laying the 6. Steve did it, 2 units, and it came through as the Bengals won 23-10. I wimped out on a couple of my ATS bets, Paul, and only went 1 unit. And of course, I regret it. How about the Houston Texans? They were getting 16.5. I actually did not get closing line value. That went up to like 17.5, I think. But they should have won the game. I mean, they could have won the game. They lost by 4. Only a 1 unit bet, Paul, but it still felt good. You know, it's still 1 unit. It's still a unit. It all counts.
Hey, I got to ask you though, because Steve has called the Vikings a fraud all season, and you went against him and took Minnesota there.
Minnesota is a teaser. Yeah. Up to 8.5. I didn't think they would lose by 2 scores.
Yeah. I mean, but
and they probably
that was
shouldn't
a
have.
huge
I mean, the Lions played
move.
well, and I mean, they had a fake punt in their own territory on 4th and 7.
Yeah.
They had that throw. I mean, now I also don't know that I was expecting it to be Kirk Cousins' best game of the year, and that kept the Vikings in it. But yes, I did go against Fezzik, and he was right. I was wrong. Now we get into our 2 best bets, Paul. Back to back. Jags, Titans. Steve and I both took the Jags getting 4. They won by 14. So 2 units for both of us. Then I thought Steve made a good point last week in Ravens Steelers when he said it's always a 3-point game.
Yep.
And the Ravens were getting 3 points. I said, yeah, that makes sense. You're right. It always is a 3-point game. Ravens won by 2. So that was 2 units that were good. 2 best bets. Chiefs, Broncos. I just leaned Chiefs laying the 9. Thankfully, it was just a lean. Steve had a combo. I don't remember this that well. He had the Broncos plus 9 paired with the under 43 for 1 unit, which lost because the game went way over, Paul.
Yeah, that's interesting there with the Broncos offense because they've been terrible. But I know I've texted you before about my thoughts about Spagnuolo's defense, and the guy must be very well liked within the organization and within the NFL because the Chiefs win because they score a zillion points. This guy gets a free pass all the time, and his defense got exposed. I know Mahomes was bad too, but how do you let the Broncos go up and down the field like that? I've never been a believer in the Chiefs defense.
I'm a huge believer in Omaha steaks. You know why? Because I like meat, and also because a lot of times you don't know what to get somebody. Like you're like, oh, what do I get that part? What do I get my boss? What do I get my work colleague? Well, Omaha Steaks has put together a delicious selection of various gift packages to make shopping for the ones you love nice and easy. You know who doesn't like getting sent meat in the mail? Nobody. Exactly nobody. Go to omahasteaks.com. Take advantage of 50% off site-wide, plus use code EVEN at checkout to get an additional $40 off yours. Wait a minute. 50% off everything. And then at checkout, you get $40 off. Minimum order may be required, but still, make sure you use that promo code EVEN to get some of that chicken, the filet, the burgers. They even have easy prepare comfort meals. Promo code EVEN at checkout to get the extra $40 off at omahasteaks.com. Omaha, Blue Goat. All right, Panthers, Seahawks. I leaned Panthers. Wish I would have done more than that. They won the game outright. Bucks, Niners. I leaned Bucks getting the points with Brock Purdy's first start. Yikes. Thankfully, it was just a lean. And
is
then
it true, by the way, you're the first one to make a Brock Purdy joke, Ross? I've heard that rumor. Just wanted to confirm it.
I'm the first one that ever said Brock looks pretty good. Nobody's ever said that before. Correct. Thank you, Paul. Then we get Dolphins, Chargers. Another one where I wimped out. You know me, Paul. First of all, I love dogs and I love Wong teasers, but I love getting 3.5. I love it. especially if I think it's a toss-up game. Chargers were getting 3.5. They end up winning the game outright. Clearly better team. I got 1 unit there. So again, for the week, I was up 6 units. Steve was up 3, and we were 2-0 on our best bet. So for the year, I'm back up to 27 units. Steve's back up to 7.5 units. And we're now 20-14 on our best bets, which is a strike rate of 59%. Shout out to Grades, our Australian friend, as always, for going through and making these and having all the data. As a reminder, patreon.com/RT Media. Patreon.com/RT Media. That's where you can see all of the picks, all of the data, how we do teasers, how we do unders, all that stuff. If you become a Tuckheads member, a lot of people have done it. We move forward, Paul. Got to make sure I don't miss out on some of the picks that Steve has. We start with Thursday night. The Seahawks are getting 3.5. The total's 43.5 as they host the Niners.
Well, you get the dreaded hook here with the 3.5. I mean, San Francisco's won 6 straight despite all these injuries. I think that's been overlooked because they're playing so well. I was looking at their depth chart today. 11 guys are listed as out or on IR, and they keep winning. Brock Purdy has this oblique injury. I'm not going to roll with Josh Johnson, so need to know about that. Seattle's lost 3 of 4. They just lost at home to Carolina. So this game is a no play for me.
Agreed. I can't do it. Not after I saw Carolina run right through Seattle. Now you got McCaffrey and the Niners coming. I can't do it. Steve's doing it. This surprised me a little bit. Steve's got 2 units on Seattle plus 3.5. That surprises me. Sorry, Steve. I can't roll with you on that one. I think there's a decent chance the Niners keep this thing rolling. We move on to the Colts and the Vikings. Saturday at 1 Eastern, your boy, me, on the call, national radio, Westwood 1, trying to figure out which brewery I'm going to Friday night in Minneapolis. The Colts are getting 4 points. The total is 48.5, Paul.
And I'll say my Twitter is probably best known for the craft beers. Ross and I agree on that. Although I'm a stout porter type of guy, Ross is more into the IPA game. So you get the best of both worlds. Vikings, they've scored 312. They've allowed 313, and they're 10-3. I know Steve has talked about this before. It just doesn't add up. But the Colts are done. I can only lean to Minnesota here. I like taking teams that were embarrassed the previous week, but I can't pull the trigger on 4.
Agreed. To me, it's just a lean to Minnesota as well. But I think this will be a pretty competitive game, actually. So I have a no play here for Vikings, Colts. Same with Steve. We move on to Ravens, Browns. Ravens are catching 3. The Browns are the favorites. The total's down to 37.5. Remember, the Ravens lost Tyler Huntley to a concussion. We don't know if he'll be back or not. If he's not, it'll be Anthony Brown. And for that reason, Paul, I cannot bet. Like, normally I would take the Ravens. And I would tell people, by the way, I know we got a bunch of new listeners in Maryland and a bunch of new people that can bet down there. If you sign up at DraftKings Sportsbook now and bet $5, you get $200 in free bets instantly, which is pretty awesome for the Maryland folks that are on board now. But I would be all over the Ravens plus 3 if Huntley was playing. I just don't know enough about Anthony Brown to do that. Like, I can't do that. It's a heavy lean to the Ravens plus 3 for me, but Watson was playing better in that last game, so it's just a lean.
There are a lot of games this week where you have quarterback question marks, and I just don't play games if I don't know who the quarterback is going to be. It's the most important position in all of sports. Sorry to Ross and the offensive lineman there, but quarterback's still the most important. I do have a play in this game, though, and I'm going to go under. I know DraftKings says 37.5, and that's what we go by. Look to see if you can get 38 at some books still. But the Ravens have quarterback issues. We just talked about that. Could be Anthony Brown. Cleveland likes to run the football. That usually means the clock is running. So I'm going to go under the 37.5, but look to see if you can find 38 somewhere. I've always said, I did radio for over 20 years. I always said, let the line lead the way. When you see a total like this, the line is telling you this is an under. Just like if you see a total that's 55, the line's telling you to go over. That's how I read this. So I'm going to go under here.
Dolphins, Bills, Saturday night. The total is 42. The Dolphins are getting 7.5 on the road. And people in Buffalo, there might be weather Saturday night, I think I've heard. And people in Buffalo will be drinking Labatt Blue Light like it's going out of style. Make sure you measure the snow in Labatt Blue Light cans again and send me those tweets at Ross Tucker NFL. I love that. You know how I feel about the pristine Canadian goodness of a cold Labatt Blue Light. Stock up. Be the MVP of your tailgate. Share a Labatt on game day with your crew. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. Paul, what do you have on this game?
Well, so many factors that lean to the Bills here. It's Saturday night. You mentioned could be snow. It's going to be cold. I don't like taking a team from Miami in those weather situations. Plus, we have a revenge game here for Buffalo. We have Tua, who was just 10 of 28. We have Tyreek Hill, who's dealing with an ankle injury. So what I'm going to do here is a 2-team 6-point teaser. Steve and I, and now you're all on board too. Sometimes I joke, I call you Timmy Teaser now, but I'm going to use Buffalo with Ross's Philadelphia Eagles, 6 points. So we move Buffalo to 1.5, and we move the Eagles down to 2.5.
So I got similar thoughts on this game. So first of all, Steve is teasing the Bills from -7.5 to -1.5, like you, Paul. He's pairing it with the Packers on Monday Night Football from -7 to -1. I'm going to do the same. I like when we get best bets. So I'm going to do the same. I'm also, however, and I don't know if Steve would approve or not, I'm going to take the Dolphins plus 7.5. The Bills just aren't really playing that great. And the Dolphins, this is like do or die for them. And if there's weather, that's even less likely that there's a lot of scoring. The Dolphins need this game. I'm taking the 7.5. I get more than a touchdown. Tua is not going to play that badly again. Dolphins plus 7.5. I'll put 2 units on it. But also the teaser with me and Steve is a best bet.
The best bet.
Eagles, Bears. The Eagles are in Chicago. The total's 48.5. Eagles are laying 8.5. You already paired them in a teaser, Paul. I'm doing the same. I'm going back to what was successful at least once, maybe twice earlier in the season. I call it the Keystone State teaser. All right. I'm taking the Eagles from -8.5 down to -2.5. And I'm pairing it with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are catching 2 points against Carolina. I'm taking them up to +8. That's going to be a close game. Carolina's not blowing anybody out. So Eagles -2.5, Pittsburgh +8, 2 units for me. Anything else on this game, Paul, from you?
One plug for DraftKings here, the options they give you. So MVP Hurts is now the favorite at -175. I'm not saying play it now. You could have got a much better number weeks ago. But also conference favorite, the Eagles, not Dallas, not San Francisco. The Eagles are the favorite in the NFC at +160 on DraftKings. So I just love the options that they give players there. Philly has 3 guys with 10 or more touchdowns. They've never done that in the history of the franchise. They're 12-1. They just hammered the Giants, who also have a mobile quarterback. Now, he's not nearly as fast as Justin Fields, but Daniel Jones can run the football, and that's why I liked Philly in the teaser with Buffalo here. Chicago's lost 6 in a row.
We've got next up, it's the Chiefs and the Texans. The game is in Houston. The Chiefs are laying 14. Totals 49.5, Paul.
Oh, it's up to 49.5?
Yes. We go by what it is when we're recording.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't even look at it anymore, in all sincerity, till 10:15. I've gotten burned even doing it at 9 a.m. I write down like 3 or 4 plays that are gone by the time we record it, which is why I can't emphasize enough how important it is that you guys listen to this as soon as possible after it posts. Like that's half the battle.
Absolutely. Totally essential. When I was on in the summer and I gave, I think, 8 tips that I use, and a lot of them are straight from Steve. I'll be totally honest with you. But one is get in early. And sometimes, like Too Short said, get in where you fit in. With gambling, you got to get in early. And sometimes you don't play it if you miss the boat. I like this over at 48.5. And I guess I was on the right side because it's moving there, but I'm not going to play it at that number. Mahomes did not look good against Denver. Houston almost beat Dallas. We're talking 14. So this is a no play for me.
I got nothing. I'm not laying 14 points in an NFL game, but the Texans I think last week was like their big effort to beat their in-state rival or whatever. They split time with the quarterbacks. The Chiefs won't be fooled by that. They'll be ready for that. It's a no play. I'm going to have a play in this next game, though. Cowboys, Jaguars. Cowboys are laying 4.5 in Jacksonville. Totals 47.5, Paul.
Oh, nice. So I'm actually in the other direction here. I'll take over 47.5. The Jags put 36 on Tennessee last week. They allowed 40 at Detroit 2 weeks ago. And only the Chiefs and the Eagles have scored more points this year than Dallas. The Cowboys, although I can't stand them, they do have weapons and they can score. They're averaging just under 28 points a game. So I'll take the over in this game.
I'm taking the Jags. I'm taking the 4.5 points. Trevor Lawrence, 2 out of the last 3 games, has looked awesome. They're actually somewhat in the AFC South playoff race. They're 2 games behind the Titans, which is wild. I think they're going to give the Cowboys a heck of a game. Cowboys, now they lose Terrence Steele, their right tackle. I think this is a battle. I think the Cowboys probably win by a field goal, but I'll take the Jags plus 4.5, 2 units. Love getting 4.5 with a team I think has a chance to win. How about the Lions and the Jets? Steve is putting 2 units on the Jets at plus 1. 2 units. The total's 44.5. So Steve's got the Jets, 2 units, getting the point. How about you, Paul?
Interesting because the Jets have lost 3 of 4. The Lions have won 5 of 6. I think the biggest question, though, surrounding this game, though, Ross, is could you have made the catch that Penei Sewell did a week ago?
Probably not. Well, first of all, I could not have run close to as fast as he ran out into the flat. That guy is an athlete. Secondly, that was not a great pass by Goff. It was behind him a little bit, and he had to show body control to turn around and catch it. That was crazy impressive. But man, if he drops that, we are talking about how galactically stupid it was that they tried it, but he caught it. I did go out for 1 pass in my NFL career as a rookie for Washington against the Eagles of all teams, and I was open. I was open in the end zone at FedEx Field in December of 2001, but there was pressure on Tony Banks. We didn't block the guy off the edge. Otherwise, Tony would have thrown me. I could have scored a touchdown against the Eagles, which would have been unbelievable. I also could have dropped the ball, but yeah, I was goal line tight end in that game.
Can't say I had the Banks to Tucker TD pass prop in that one. But I will say, as far as this game, do we know for sure that Mike White is playing? I mean, if it's Joe Flacco, yikes. Like, I don't think anybody wants any part of that. So
We
this
don't.
is another game
Asala
where
said that he thinks that that Mike White they're operating as if he's going to be able to play.
Yeah. I'm not going to play this one, but it's interesting that Steve is on the Jets here. If the Jets would be a potential, if it would get to 1.5, the Jets you could tease to 7.5 if that happens.
I would definitely do that. I've got no play on this game. I don't like games that are around -1, +1. Next game, Paul, we've got the Steelers and the Panthers. Steelers are getting 2 points on the road. The total's 38.5. Steve is going 2 units on the under. He likes the under 38.5 in Pittsburgh and Carolina. So he's going under here. I don't do very well in totals. I stay away from totals. I do like the Steelers in this one as a teaser up to +8. I'd be surprised if they lose by more than that. I think this game will be a physical battle between these two teams. So I'll take the Steelers +8 with the Eagles down to -2.5. I mentioned it earlier in the 2-unit 6.2 team teaser. What do you have on this one, Paul?
I feel better because I'm on the same side as Steve here. I'm on the under as well in this game. It's my old saying, let the line lead the way. It's 38.5 for a reason. The Panthers have won 2 straight, which only gets them at 5-8, but in the dreaded South, believe it or not, they're only 1 game behind Tampa Bay. So they obviously still have a lot to play for. Pickett in concussion protocol. Trubisky was downright pathetic when he came in. So I like the under in this game too.
Falcons are at the Saints in Desmond Ritter's debut. The total's 43.5. The Falcons are getting 4.5. Now, I usually stay away from a guy playing his first NFL game, right? But I just don't see how he can be worse than how Mariota was playing. Like, I just don't see how he can be worse than that. And I think there's a decent chance he'll be better. And he's had the bye week, a lot of time to prepare for this game. I'm taking the Falcons +4.5, Paul, for 2 units.
I know it's college, but it seemed like he was at Cincinnati for about 7 years. I mean, he was there for forever. I liked him a lot in college. Seemed like more mature than his age. The Saints have said they're sticking with Andy Dalton. I'm just going to pass on this game. Just we have one quarterback. We don't know what he's going to do, and Andy Dalton, I don't trust. So I don't have anything on this.
Patriots, Raiders. Interesting. Patriots staying out on the West Coast after the Cardinals game last night. They are laying a point. Totals 44.5. McDaniels versus Belichick, Paul.
We love teasers. I had the Raiders in one and I had the Cardinals in another. So I was just disgusted at the. Explain to me, Raw. I mean, these are.
By the way, I can tell who you've bet based on your tweets.
Oh, everybody says that.
I can tell because I can. Yes,
I bury them.
You only are complaining about how a team's performing if you bet on them.
But let me ask you, like, these coaches are making a zillion dollars. Why were the Raiders in press coverage when the Rams are out of timeout and the only way they can beat you is over the top with the touchdown? How does that make sense in Pee Wee football, let alone the NFL?
It's a good question. I think what they would tell you is because they didn't think the Rams would expect them to be in press coverage, right? Like maybe they're outthinking themselves. And also, I guess the thought is they didn't want to give Baker an easy throw underneath, but you want him to do that in that situation.
Yeah,
You
just
want the
tackle him in
easy throw.
bounds.
Yeah. I would have played off coverage. I don't really understand it, but it is
Anyway,
what it is. Do you have anything on this game?
New England is not good. Don't be fooled by last night in a 2-touchdown win. That had a lot more to do with the Cardinals, and people will bring up the Murray injury. Listen, McCoy's a good backup. They were up 6 with 1:42 to go in the first half at New England's 41. Not only don't they score, they give up a field goal right before halftime, and then Hopkins fumbles, giving away a touchdown. Arizona is such a joke. The Raiders and the Cardinals are two teams I will never, ever trust. So I'm just passing on this game. I'm disgusted that I lost both legs of those teasers, if you can't tell.
Arizona's plus 2.5 in their next game at Denver. Totals 36.5. Low total for the Cards and the Broncos, Paul.
Nothing. I'm absolutely disgusted with the Cardinals. How does that coach still have a job, by the way? I mean, it's over and over and over again. And the Broncos often, yeah, they moved the ball against the Chiefs, but is Rippon starting for them now? I mean, Wilson looked like he was totally out of the game.
Well, I know Colt McCoy's starting for Arizona, and that's good enough for me. I'm taking them up to plus 8.5. I like Colt McCoy. I think he's a pretty solid quarterback. And I don't know who's playing for the Broncos, but I know they're not going to score that many points. They scored points against the Chiefs because Mahomes got picked off, and they had great field position. So I'm taking the Cardinals up to plus 8.5, and I'm pairing them with the Titans up to plus 8.5 against the Chargers. Listen, I know the Titans aren't playing great. The Chargers' run defense is not good. And Vrabel and Derrick Henry and the Titans are going to try to smash the Chargers. So that's my last 2-team, 2-unit, 6-point teaser. Arizona up to 8.5. Tennessee up to 8.5. We move on to the Bengals laying 3.5 on the road.
Oh, real quick, Ross. Titans, Chargers. I do have a play. I have over.
Oh, no, I'll get back to that game. I'll get to that game.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Bengals minus 3.5 against the Bucks, plus 3.5. Total 44, Paul.
The old opposite theory here. I insist if you just went against the public, you would be a profitable bettor. Just find out what side, what the most money and the most tickets are on, and go the other way. I swear you would be profitable. I don't have any stats, but everyone loves Cincinnati right now, right? They've won 5 in a row. Burrow is just on with Eli and Peyton. Everyone hates the Bucks, lose 35-7 to San Francisco. Brady's done again. I'm going to hold my nose here and take Tampa Bay, getting 3.5. What do you hear in the stock market? You want to buy low, right? Well, I'm buying low here with Tampa Bay. Now, people who have followed me on Twitter are probably saying you've been crushing the Bucks and Packers all season long, which I have. And I think they're public teams, so their lines get inflated because you have Brady and Rodgers. But I'm just going to go with the opposite theory here and take Tampa Bay. I like getting the hook, too, at 3.5.
I got nothing on this game. I can't do it. Bengals are playing too well. Bucks are playing too bad. Can't do it. Titans, Chargers. Titans are getting 2.5. Totals 47. Already told you that I took the Titans up to 8.5 on a teaser, paired them with the Cardinals. You have a play on this one, right, Paul?
Well, I did, but this morning I got it at 46 and I took the over. So 47 is kind of a key number there. But I mean, you look at Herbert, he threw the ball 51 times in their last game, 367 yards. Plus, the Chargers allow more points than any team in the AFC, and their defense is banged up. I mean, they're not healthy. So I like the over in this game. What the heck? Fezzik would kill me for playing a bad number right here, but I'll still go over 47.
I like TV. I like NFL Red Zone. I like Sling Blue Plus Sports Extra. You can watch every touchdown live every Sunday afternoon with NFL Red Zone on Sling. So for a limited time, it's a good gift to get somebody for the holidays. Get Sling Blue, add on Sports Extra, get it for yourself with NFL Red Zone for half off your first month. So regular, it's $46, now only $23. So you get the best deal on Red Zone, so you can catch all the touchdowns at the lowest price with Sling TV. Visit sling.com/DraftKings to sign up today. 2 more games, Paul. Giants, Commanders. Giants are getting 4.5. The total is 40. Game is in Washington Sunday night.
Yeah, I've said all season the Giants were a fraud. I love the Eagles this past weekend. I used them in a bunch of teasers, and that was easy. I look at the Giants. Look at their wide receivers. People want to talk about Daniel Jones. Who is he throwing to out there? Washington coming off a bye. They've only lost 1 game in their last 8, which is unbelievable. But 4.5 to me, I'm not going to play it. But to me, either you play Washington here or you don't play the game.
I'm going against you, and I'm going against Steve. Steve has 2 units on Washington laying the 4.5. He rarely does that.
Yeah.
Rarely. So he feels very strongly about it. We're going head to head. The Giants were the better team when they played like 2 weeks ago. The Giants butchered that game, and the Commanders made a couple of plays to tie it. But the Giants were the better team. You're giving me more than a field goal. This game will be 24-20. Maybe the Commanders win. I don't care. I'm getting 4.5. 2 units, G-men getting the 4.5. Monday Night Football, I'll be there too. I got a doubleheader this weekend. I'll be in the booth with the legend, Kevin Harlan. Looking forward to it. I do my
hopefully a fan runs on the field.
I know. Maybe I'll run on the field to have him call it. Got the Midwest 2-step. The Packers are laying 7. Total is only 39.5. I'm taking the Packers from -7 down to -1, as I mentioned earlier, pairing them with the Buffalo Bills, who are -1.5. What say you, Paul?
You know what? In my notes, I said, consider Packers in a teaser. But as I mentioned earlier, I've been totally against both Green Bay and Tampa Bay all season. I just think you get bad lines with those teams, and I don't think they're very good. But the fact that you're using them and Steve is using them, why not jump on board? So I will use Green Bay in a teaser with Buffalo, which I believe is already a best bet.
Yeah, already a best bet. Love it. Awesome job, Paul. Thank you for filling in. Steve, if you're listening, hope you feel better, buddy. I'll text you as well. Other than that, good luck, everybody. Hope you guys win some money.
Thanks for listening to the Even Money Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, The Fantasy Feast, Business of Sports, and the College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.